man. So just want to show you. It's not super important or anything, but I use Claude like every day. The desktop app is kind of meh, I would say, but the model I think is good. So essentially, I built something that is all workflow in here, right? So we have projects, but then projects are essentially a mix of, let's say, a project, like like Bridesmaid, a product, and then actual tools, which are system prompts with certain functionality. But it's all one level because there's nothing else. And what I did is essentially think about what are kind of primitives that I need in order to build something that is kind of more in line with the workflow. And I'm just going to show you kind of what's unique. So essentially, you have an organization space. So this is organization wide, and you have like project spaces, right? So this is the first difference. And then here in the chats, these are just normal wrappers around Claude API, basically. But these company documents, they are essentially injected automatically into every tool that is within the company or within the organization, so that I only have to create it once, because now we have like every tool has like one or two of the same documents. There always have to be added to the tool, to every new tool. So essentially any document I create, very simple, here will get injected into any of the tools and into any of the spaces and the chats in the tools, right? So essentially that's that. And then I have tools, which are system prompts, right? And then here you can see which documents they all have. So they have this organization document, and they have tool documents. So if I have a specific document that just applies to this tool, which you can also do in Claude, right? Then I can add it there, and then only chats that are within that tool will have this injected automatically as well. And what I added was some sort of insight capturing. So during chats, whenever you say something or you think that's an insight, it will capture that automatically, and it will apply it to the project as an insight or to the whole organization as an insight. Because I think oftentimes those get lost, insights that we have, or they're not in a single place. And obviously you can go in and you can create them by hand, but I want them to be captured automatically from what I'm chatting with the bot, right? And then what else here? This is just like, I spent like 10 hours total on this. So this is just like the first kind of, MVP or proof of concept order. You can have a chat be part of a project, which then injects the project context. And you can select a tool. And what's also interesting is you can start with a tool, and then you can collect some context. You can chat, you get more information, and you can switch the tool, which all that does is just it changes out the context that gets added, because the tool context gets removed from the old tool, and the new tool context gets added, and the system prompt gets switched. But that's such a thing where I'm like, you saw here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, there's 8 tools here. This is all for next week for the strategy stuff, where essentially I am building on top of the context of the other one, right? So if I have everything in the same conversation, granted, if I run out of context, I'll have issues, but it would be better for me to keep all the context there, all the previous messages, and then create a deliverable, and then have that deliverable, and then keep chatting in the same conversation, but switching out the system problem. All of a sudden we're doing something else, but I have everything that came before. I still have that there, right? And that's also not possible in Claude. Then here, duplicating conversations. So essentially it will just create a copy of the conversation that I can then branch into another place from, with all the same messages that came before. another thing that doesn't work. So if you copy a conversation, you need to paste all the fucking conversations in there, or like all the messages that came before, if you want to basically start all of the same kind of shared context in the conversation, right? And then sharing, which Claude also doesn't have, but that's not like, it's work in progress, so it doesn't fully work yet. And what else? Another thing is essentially here within the chat, I can take any of the messages and I can create, I guess Windsurf broke that, but technically I can press that and then I can create a new document, which I can attach to the organization, to a tool, or to a project as context. And I can do that from here without having to like copy paste. Or what I can also do is I can append to another document. So oftentimes I will want to add things to an already existing document. And right now it's all like very manual copy paste kind of crap. And so this is like fully integrated. And another thing is like when I have a chat, I will often copy paste and put that here to answer, because then it shows up as a quote. And this is how I go through and then answer stuff. And this is like integrated here, right? So I just do this and then do that, and just some like shenanigans, nothing like world changing, but for the workflow that I do every day, it's like super helpful because it saves me a lot of time. And obviously it's not, we're not at the end yet, so we could essentially make it possible to switch models. We can have audio inputs, which I planned on doing, but now I have this super whisper or something, works quite well. So I was like, okay, I don't need to do that first and do that later, because often what I will do is like, we'll just sit down and talk. For example, here, when I summarize books, I have like, this is always like 10 minutes of me talking, but this only works on iOS, so I have to have my phone out. So that's one of the things I wanted to build in. But I have the full kind of strategy here for the tool. So essentially here, like long-term, what makes it different, later features, MVP, link sharing. I already built some of these things, but yeah, essentially creating ClickUp tickets from chats, with tool calling and things like that. So just like very, very tailored to the tool set that we use, but I think very useful for that sense. And also another thing I had sometimes on Claude is like hitting message limits, even on the paid plan. So then like I wanted to use it and I couldn't. But yeah, obviously it's lacking some stuff, right? Like no file uploads and all this shit. So that will come over time. But overall, quite happy for the amount of time I put in. I started with the Next.js Supabase starter, I think, for this. Anything else I forgot? No, I mean, that looks quite inconsistent, but that's another thing. So yeah, here for example, it's like a project document just with the strategy. Let's see. What's our strategy? See if this still even works. So I need to see, but essentially, the context shit is probably the most important, that it's always shared. Alrighty, cheers.